The most important thing to remember about the CELPIP exam is that it's not IELTS. If you've been prepping for the IELTS your entire life, but now decided to take the CELPIP because you are immigrating to Canada, well then this crash course is for you. Today we're going through every section, the reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and we're going to give you all of the necessary information you need so that you can get a high CLB on this course. I'm Scott from HZAD Education. We spend hours and hours and years dedicating our time to the CELPIP exam. We've helped hundreds of students to get a high CLB, immigrate to Canada, and start their life. So today we're going to master these 4 areas. You'll know everything that there is for each section. Now, if you don't already follow and subscribe to our channels, please check out the description down below. We would be happy to share more free resources with you every week. So let's get started. In the writing task, there are 2 sections and it gets increasingly more difficult. So task number 1 is a little bit more casual. In fact, you'll be using semi-formal or slightly formal language. But in task number 2, it becomes a survey question, so you want to focus on formal language. In general, the writing section for the CELPIP exam lasts about 60 minutes. So you have up to 60 minutes to complete all of your answers. Now, we're going to break down that time frame so you know exactly how much time to spend on brainstorming, outlining, proofreading, etc. Task number 1 is email, and task number 2 is responding to a survey question. So you get a total of 12 points, of course, for the writing section. In general, most people have great difficulties with the writing section simply because it involves the most amount of grammar and the English comprehensive. But there are ways that you can flex your language simply by using good transitional words and good vocabulary. This will help you to get the highest score possible. And we're also going to look at some templates. So you need to write about 150 words to 200 words for task 1, and about the same for task 2. And if you don't know what 200 words looks like, well, you should become comfortable with that outline, and I'll show you that in a second. This is 178 words. So you can see it looks like an email. We have our header, our introduction, paragraph 1 and 2. Even this could be broken up into one paragraph like that. That's quite standard for emails. But in general, this is what 200 words looks like. On the CELPIP exam, you do have a word count, which is really important. Make sure that you're aiming towards the 200 words. And I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Now, I'd like to share some quick breaking news with you. Stay tuned to the end of the video because at the end, we're going to give away some free training resources for the CELPIP exam. So remember to stay tuned to the very end of the video. I'll provide all of the details so that you can get enrolled for the free training crash course. Now let's keep going with the video because there's lots more to learn. Now, there are some ways that you can save time and be more efficient in the writing section. Number 1 is templates, and number 2 is organizing or managing your time. For both task 1 and task 2, you want to follow some type of structure that looks like this. Give yourself a few more minutes for task 2. So we're thinking about 35 minutes for task 2 and about 25 minutes for task 1. But in general, you're going to spend 2 to 5 minutes in the brainstorming section. This gives you enough time to write down vocabulary words, transitional words, and organize your thoughts in a clear structure, because having organization does count for marks. You'll spend about 5 minutes on your thesis and your introduction sentence or your introduction paragraph. You might think this seems like a lot, but actually it's not. The reason is because your thesis, like your main idea, your main point, is going to be the outline for your whole paragraph or your email or responding to a survey question. In that thesis, you're going to basically share your opinion. So I think that we should build a movie theater because. Now that kind of becomes your main argument, and you're going to share that in the next few paragraphs. So about 5 minutes for that. 10 minutes for the body paragraph. So you'll provide some examples, you'll have good transitional words, you'll share your opinion. 5 minutes for the conclusion. Actually, conclusions are usually faster to do because you're going to use a very similar sign-off for every email. You know those phrases like, yours truly, or I look forward to seeing you. Thank you for your time and consideration. These sentences are essentially plug and play. The last 2 sentences are fast. But you do want to give yourself 2 to 5 minutes for proofreading and editing because in order to get top marks for the writing section, you really can't have mistakes. No spelling mistakes and no grammar mistakes. If you have 1 mistake, that will give you a good enough score. You'll still get close to 10 for the CLB. However, if you have more than 1 grammar mistake or spelling mistake, you simply won't get top scores. So proofreading is necessary. Now, writing with a template is suggested, and I'll tell you why. A lot of online programs will tell you don't use a template. And the reason they say that is because some students get too caught up using exactly the same template every time. And in fact, this is not good practice for English or for exam test taking. However, the purpose of this template is to save you time when you are writing, so you're always going to use a similar sentence structure that is easy to remember. So for example, dear name, and this is task 1. I hope you are doing well. Okay, very easy to remember that. I am writing to express my main issue. Now make sure you're using a full sentence here. It can be a compound or a complex sentence. We want to avoid simple sentences. We're thinking of less than 30% of simple sentences. 60% compound complex. Unfortunately, my something and solution. So you're often going to see questions like this, where it says, you've recently purchased a brand new smartphone online, but the phone frequently shuts down without warning. Write an email to customer support. So you need to do 3 things. Mention when and where you bought it, explain the problems you've encountered, and suggest a solution to your friend. Now take a look at our template. We're going to follow the exact same order. We'll do number 1, intro, number 2, body paragraph, and number 3 will be your conclusion. So paragraph 1, 2, 3. So if we go back to our template, your experience will be that your smartphone consistently breaks down, and your solution will be that you want to find a refund or get a trade-in of the phone. So that is, yes, that's your thesis sentence, thesis and introduction. About 5 minutes on that. During my visit, could be a visit during my experience, so you can change that word. Then you go in, you elaborate on your problem, you explain more detail. This body paragraph number 1 is also where you want to flex your vocabulary. Be thinking of different synonyms and vocabulary for the question. Then you're going to use a transitional word in your next sentence and a compound sentence. So a transitional word like however, although, additionally, nonetheless, moreover. Make sure that you're using at least 2 transitional words in this essay or in this writing of an email. And in fact, I've already given you 1 transitional word here, so that covers you. And then in your last paragraph, you want to answer part number 3. And part number 3 says, suggest a solution or request a refund. So in this example, you're going to suggest a solution. So we use the template in order to ensure positive customer service, or in order to have a great experience with Samsung, I would like to suggest solution number 1. Additionally, number 2, often they'll give you 2 things. They'll say suggest a solution, ask for a refund. So you might need 2 different options. Then you have your classic email sign-off. These changes would significantly benefit your customers. I formally appreciate your assistance, or thank you for acknowledging this email. Some type of classic sign-off part where you give 1 sentence. I look forward to your response. Thank you for your time. Best regards, your name. Nice mix of compound, complex sentence structures. In task number 2, you're going to choose your own option, and then it's really important that you share your opinion and in task number 2, it is very important that you are sharing your own opinion and you're expressing it, but you must justify why. So for example, this topic says park improvement survey. It's a survey. Your local council wants to improve the city park. They are considering creating a dedicated park, a dog park, or a community garden area, and they need feedback. You get to choose A or B, dog park or community garden. The most important thing is that you justify your reasoning. So we're thinking of because. I choose the dog park because, and you're going to want to list multiple reasons why. Let's take a look at a template to simplify your writing. So in task number 2, you are going to write to the city council or whoever it is subject to. Now, very first sentence, we can make this easy. Don't overthink it. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion. Or thank you for raising this question in the meeting. I am reaching out to, and then you explain what is the topic, main topic. I am reaching out to offer my perspective on. Now you're welcome to use this word perspective. It's a nice, good vocabulary. And then you explain in detail the problem. My perspective on the new proposal for the park. While both options seem good, both options offer community engagement, I strongly believe that the chosen option would be the most beneficial for the desired outcome. Now you can see this is our thesis, and this would take about 5 minutes. So I highly recommend spending about 5 minutes on this thesis. It's well organized. It's a good complex sentence. It's using strong vocabulary. Immediately, it shares your opinion and you already justify why. So you've marked off most of the required aspects for task number 2 simply in this section, this one sentence. So just remember this one sentence and fill it in with your information. And then, of course, we must go on to meet the word count and to get more marks for vocabulary, so we'll continue to explain. Now we're going to say allocating something towards something would benefit something. So very loose template. Allocating more park space towards the dogs would benefit them because it gives more community engagement, etc. For instance, provide an example. This would become your body paragraph. It looks short here because you need to add in some detail with vocabulary. In your final closing paragraph, you want to show that you can comfortably talk about both options. While the other option may be suitable for a small group of people, investing in, like some type of verb, investing in chosen option is a far greater opportunity. For example, and then you explain some limitations, prioritizing your option ensures positive results. These are really good sentence structures. So long as you can add your own information in the boxes, you will have a great template for task number 2. I appreciate your time and effort. I look forward to hearing your response. Best regards, your name. So take a screenshot of this, try to remember the template and apply it. Now, as we've worked with hundreds of students across Canada, I want to show you an example that got a really high CLB, and this was just successful all around. So this student chose, they go through option A and option B. They're looking to find a better use for the extra space in their company. But the first thing the student did was to spend a few minutes, about 4 to 5 minutes, on the brainstorming. So they brainstormed some vocabulary that would be useful, and then they brainstorm some transitional words that they are comfortable to use. Quick, fast, but it gets you your marks. Brainstorming vocabulary, look at the question, try to find synonyms, and then build vocabulary from there. And then what I would like to show you is that this student did a phenomenal job to use that vocabulary with a structure. So they start with their introduction sentence. They have good vocabulary, high-level vocabulary, conveniently exercised. They have their transitional word. Furthermore, being active is known to boost mental focus, so they go on to describe more about it. Secondly, a fitness area. So again, idea number 2. So they have justification. They chose their option and they are justifying it with a second idea. It would provide various types of exercise, cardio, weightlifting, good vocabulary, high level. Additionally, we have our other transitional word. And then this is where they talk about the option they did not select. While a swimming pool sounds appealing, it may not provide the same convenience for busy professionals due to blah, 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 blah. On the other hand, a well-equipped fitness area blends seamlessly. Wow, just like good vocabulary. For these reasons, I believe the fitness area, blah, 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 blah. Your regards or best regards, like sign off and then your name. Don't forget to sign off. So, quick example of how the student took the template and they matched it to their own tone, their own formality. They applied vocabulary and sentence structures, having 60% compound complex sentence structures, 30% simple structures, focusing on transitional words and high-level vocabulary. And you can always look to the question and find synonyms for that. So for the writing section, you are getting marked on a lot of things, including your coherence, your vocabulary, your readability. Task fulfillment, you need to answer all parts of the question. And of course, your grammar, we are aiming for less than 1 mistake for grammar and spelling. Over 1 mistake, you won't get full marks. So remember to proofread as much as possible. The reading section of the CELPIP exam has 4 parts. Some people say this is the most difficult part of the exam, and that's because they've been preparing for IELTS. Keep in mind that the CELPIP reading section is very different from the IELTS reading section because it tests different types of skills. So listen up carefully if you've only been studying for IELTS in the past. Part number 1 is reading corresponds. 2 is applying to a diagram, and in that diagram, you're going to get a lot of text. This is the one section that we can use a different type of skill, and I'll show you that in a moment. Part number 3 is reading for information, and the very hardest part is reading for viewpoints. Now, part 1 and part 4 have the same structure, the same format, but part number 4 is more challenging. Vocabulary, tricky questions, understanding the speaker's viewpoint. This requires some technique and some skill going into the exam. So it does start off easier and then it gets harder. Now, for nearly all sections, I'm going to tell you one thing that's different from IELTS is that we don't want to just skim read. Don't just skim read. This is okay in IELTS because in IELTS, you're just looking for a quick answer. Usually it's finding a synonym for the same answer or matching the heading. But for CELPIP, you do want to read the entire passage. So we need to focus on speed and efficiency because the answer is going to be somewhere hidden in the passage. And you're using a lot of inference questions. So simply just looking at it is not going to give you the correct answer every time. We do want to read. Now, let's look at how we can do this efficiently because we don't have a lot of time. So in part number 1 of the reading section, you have 10 minutes. You might not be able to see my timing here, but it will always give you 10 minutes, part number 1. This one is considered an email. So you're going to have an email section here with some drop-down questions, A, B, C, D kind of questions. So it's multiple choice. Almost all are multiple choice in the CELPIP exam. And then once you get to the second part here, you need to complete the paragraph. And this is like a response to the original email. So what I mean about reading the entire passage. If you read this whole thing, this whole email on the left side, you are already going to have the information you need for this section down here. So you're not going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're going to actually complete this simply because you've read it already. So first we're going to look at the types of questions. Let's get rid of this. Let's look at the type of questions. There's a three-part strategy. Read the questions so you understand what you were looking for. Read the email or read the written section. Then go back and read the A, B, C, D options and then choose your answer. So first example is what catalyzed climate pattern disturbance mentioned in the letter? Well, there's a lot of synonyms we're going to look here. So I know that this passage is going to be about climate patterns and changing climate patterns. It's going to be like catalyzed. Something's going to be affecting it greatly. And I can already see this is to the members of environmental policy. So it's an environmental email. What is the proposed cornerstone to tackle climate change? Okay, so what is going to greatly change it or going to be the hallmark of the climate change, etc. Now, reading the subject, good. We're going to go through that quickly so you understand. It is with a profound sense of responsibility and urgency that I addressed. So now you continue. Section 2, you're going to continue reading this entire thing. By the time you finish reading all, you'll answer the questions here. The bottom part for task 1, do this mostly from memory. So you don't need to go back and forth, back and forth. Now, remember I said in the reading section, we are always going to read the entire passage and we're not going to skim read. There's one section where I would like you to skim read first, and that's section 2. In task number 2, you're going to get a diagram. And there is a diagram, but it's not like the IELTS diagrams where it's like a process diagram, step 1, step 2. It's actually more text-based. So what I want you to do is skim through this text to quickly understand it. I'm looking at sustainable urban mobility, public transportation, environmental impact mitigation. So I know that this essay or this written piece is going to be something about the future of transportation. And now I'm going to skim through it and start to understand what are the focus points of each 3 options, because your written passage is going to talk about those. So step 1, go through this, skim read it. Try to understand, okay, there's enhance efficiency, minimize heat effect. Look for key vocabulary words that you can remember. And again, it is mostly text-based, so you're reading a lot of text in this diagram. Then in your remaining time, which will be most of the time, most of the 10 minutes, you're going to the written section and you're going to complete the drop-down buttons based on the before and after sentence. I do recommend still reading the whole passage. You can do this. You have enough time to do so. So here I see the concept of something, and I can't complete this based on the concept. I need to read after. Is at the forefront of this transportation, advocating for more a move away from personal vehicles towards more collective mobility solutions. Mobility, right there. We have mobility, we have mobility. I'm pretty confident that this would be something in the sustainable urban mobility. We can double check, so you can go through here and double check if you have time, so to make sure that it talks about the move away from it. And in the very first box, we already see that it says reducing reliance on personal vehicles. So we're moving away from personal vehicles. That helps to confirm that this is the correct answer. Question number 2, we would do the exact same thing. Read the sentence before, read the sentence after, and try to complete the sentence. Often you'll note that grammar plays a key role. As we move down, we're looking for some key objectives towards it. There's only 3 questions in the drop down. You don't necessarily need to be reading about the diagram because you've already understood the 3 options. So you'll just click the drop downs. How do public transportation innovations impact? So we've already read this by doing something. That's section 2. Now in section 3, this is where a lot of people start to apply their IELTS learning to the CELPIP, and it just doesn't work. So I will explain a strategy that you should not be using, and then we'll look at exactly how you can conquer task 3. In the IELTS, a lot of people look at the first few sentences because they are matching the heading to the paragraph. That's one of the reading questions. This is not like it. So simply reading the first sentence or 2 sentences of every paragraph is not going to be enough. What we're going to do is focus on the questions here. Read the questions first, understand some key vocabulary, then go back to a paragraph and read. Now keep in mind that there is E, which is not discussed. Another poor strategy for this is trying to find the answers that are not discussed by selecting E. That won't work. Generally, there is 1 or 2 not discussed answers in the questions. So, step number 1. Read all of the questions. Read 1 to 9. You're looking for vocabulary words. For example, number 1 says, focus on technology's role in mental health. Now, the exam creators, they need to find synonyms in the text and they put those in the questions. So we're going to do that in the reverse. We're looking for synonyms for mental health. So we might see words like physical health or mental issues or something that relates to mental health. I guess physical health wouldn't. And then we're going to number 2. We'll do the exact same thing. Influence of cultural competence. All right, so I would look for a paragraph of culture. After I've read through all 9 questions, I'm going to paragraph A. In paragraph A, I'm going to look for some of those keywords. All right, mental health. Mental health, perfect. But I see mental health is always in paragraph B as well. Mental health is in paragraph C. Mental health, okay, so they all talk about mental health. So I need to find one that focuses on the technology in mental health. So if we don't see anything about technology, scientific research, no. Revolutionize. Here we go. Machine learning with algorithms can analyze vast amount of data identified to patterns, blah, 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 blah. Treat mental illness. All right, so B. Perfect. Influence on cultural competence, I would do the same thing. I'm looking for any synonyms to culture. Cultural biases, good. Are there any more in culture? I don't think so. All right, so I would read through paragraph B, confirm that this has cultural competence or it has an influence on it, and then I would select C. So what you're doing is reading the question, reading all the questions, I should say, reading 1 paragraph at a time, like A, and then seeing which ones apply to A. When you find key vocabulary words or synonyms, make sure you verify that that is the correct one. All right, part 4. Part 4 gives people the most trouble, and there's a reason why it's at the end. There's only 4 parts, and it goes a little bit easier, medium, difficult, and part number 4 is really, really challenging. The good thing is that part number 4 follows exactly the same structure and format, and we can apply the same strategies as part number 1. However, be careful because this is where the examiner really wants to trick you. So there's a few things we can do in order to get past those tricks and just have the most success. You're given 12 minutes, and I recommend that you use those 12 minutes efficiently. We are not going to skim through this text. That is not enough. I need to understand everything this text says. And it's usually about a 4 or 5 or maybe a 6-minute read. So what I'm going to do first is use half of my 12 minutes to read the entire part. Read, make notes, understand it like you're reading a textbook. This might seem like it takes too much time in the beginning, but it will save you time afterwards. All right, so 6 minutes has gone by. I have read everything here. I've looked at the vocabulary, I've understood the complex sentences, and really tried to piece together what it means. Now, second thing I'm going to do is read through all of the questions 1 to 5, not the response. just the drop-down questions like this. Read all of the questions 1 to 5. So I have the fundamental purpose of regenerative agriculture as discussed in the passage. All right, fundamental purpose of regenerative agriculture. Because I've already read the entire essay, I'll know where to find that question. So I'm looking for synonyms of the purpose, so like the number one reason or this is the purpose of, and regenerative agriculture will be in one of these paragraphs because it's really a hard word to use a synonym for. All right, it took me some time, but I found it in paragraph 1. The culmination of these blah, 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 blah towards regenerative agriculture, a practice that prioritizes, that's our fundamental purpose, prioritizes the restoration of soil health and biodiversity through methods that work in harmony with nature. All right, so the purpose is to have healthy biodiversity, healthy nature, and work with nature, not against it. So we would look towards our questions, our drop downs, and try to find something. Integrates social economic, promotes biodiversity. Yeah, you can't see it. Promotes biodiversity restoration. All right, so I'm fairly confident. That's our process with part number 4. Hardest process is reading through it. So spend half of your time reading the paragraphs, reading all. That will take you at least 6 minutes, around there. Make mental notes. Number 2, read all of the questions. Number 3, find those questions in the passage and confirm your understanding. Then look at the drop-down buttons. The reason we need to understand the answer first is because once you click on the drop-down buttons, there's going to be trick answers. And we don't want to be confused with those trick answers yet. We want to have the understanding first, then choose the correct answer. This will help you to get most of them correct. So in the reading section, the most important thing that I want you to remember is managing your time efficiently. This is not like the IELTS exam where you can just assume or guess through all of your answers. Despite what you might hear online, I do really recommend that you read through the entire passage once, read it thoroughly. Contrary to what people are going to say about skimming and scanning, just quickly read everything, it just simply doesn't give you the full understanding of the text, and then it's very easy to make mistakes because the exam makers want to trick you in these drop-down buttons, option A, B, C. So what I recommend is read through the entire thing. Focus on your time management. If you really don't know the answer, move on and continue with the next one. For part number 1 and part number 4, by the time you get to this response, you shouldn't have to still be reading the actual written part. This should mostly come because you've already spent that time to read through it carefully. Now, the listening section deals with more conversation style and lecture style than other exams like IELTS. In the IELTS, you'll hear a lot more specific detail questions. For example, they'll ask you what the address is, what their telephone number is, etc. For the CELPIP exam, we're really starting off with some problem-solving questions, and we're going all the way to basically university lectures. In that, there are 6 parts. You're also going to have a video in section 5, and you're going to have different news reportings. So I will say that the listening section can be slightly difficult, but if you know what to look for or what to listen for, it becomes more manageable. So part number 1 is a problem-solving section. You're going to have 8 minutes and 8 questions in total. In fact, 1 minute per question will be the standard for parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll have 2 speakers and they're having a conversation between each other. Now, just remember that there are 3 sections to this. So they'll play about 1 minute of audio, ask 2 to 3 questions. 1 minute of audio, 2 to 3 questions. Like that, that's the format. This gives you an advantage. For your strategy in that 1 minute, you should be writing short form bullet point notes. Very, very quick notes, because ideas from the first clip are going to carry over into the 3rd clip. And so what I recommend you not doing, the worst strategy, is just trying to keep everything up here. because you are listening, answering questions, listening, answering questions, listening, answering questions, and you just won't keep all of that information in your memory. So write some brief notes. Generally, questions are like one speaker is trying to help the other one solve a problem. Sometimes this is a work problem or a life problem. So you'll see here, the first question is actually quite difficult. They start you off strong. A woman is interviewing a man about the implications of advancements in geothermal energy, ethics of genetic modifications in agriculture, and the challenges in reconstruction in historical movements. 3 topics. They'll likely come up in topic 1, 2, and 3, audio 1, 2, and 3. So you just want to be focusing at one at a time and writing notes.
Good afternoon, Leo. Have you heard about the recent advancements in geothermal energy technology?
It'll play like that. It's always important to keep
What recent technological advancement has renewed interest in geothermal energy?
Keep in mind who the speaker is. You're listening for the male, female's opinions, and you can write that down along with their name. Questions are also on audio, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 options here, multiple choice. Section 2, in my opinion, is actually the easiest because it's a daily life conversation. So you're going to be listening to 2 speakers. Again, keep in mind their names and their opinions. Names are sometimes less important, but you should understand the male's opinion, the female's opinion. Write that down briefly. For example, it's coworkers discussing a work project or couples planning a weekend activity. So the questions are quite daily life questions. This part you'll be fine with. In part number 3, however, we are getting into very specific details. Here, again, you're going to have 2 speakers. You only have 30 seconds per question, so you need to listen carefully. Remember, the question is an audio, so you listen to it only once. If you miss the audio, you have to just guess the answer. It might be, for example, an employee explaining a process to a new coworker, so like an onboarding application. Let's take a look for an example. Part number 3 is a man interviewing another man about a policy-making dynamics.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hudson. It is a pleasure to have you with us today to discuss the intricate dynamics of political policymaking and its societal implications.
Okay, so we're going to get his opinion here, and another man is going to share his opinion as well.
Unintended repercussions when distinct aspirations and challenges.
As you practice this a few times, you're going to get more comfortable with understanding what is the type of question they will be asking. But I'll show you.
What does Mr. Hudson identify as a crucial element in the relationship between policymaking and societal development?
Some of the questions are going to be identifying main objectives or main opinions. These can also be inference questions. For example, it might ask you, what is their general attitude towards? So you need to make an inference. When you are listening to the audio, if you ever have 3 reasons or 3 examples, always write those down. For example, they might say that the project is trying to overcome 1, 2, 3 challenges. So for example, the project is trying to overcome geographical, political, and cultural challenges. Those 3 are definitely going to come up in the questions. So when you hear the speakers tell 3 examples or 3 reasons why, write those down. Part number 4 comes from a news article. This can be a little bit more challenging, but it's shorter. Part 4 is only 5 minutes and it just has 1 speaker, 1 clip. The reason it's shorter and the reason it's harder is because news channels typically speak a lot faster. So they're going to be speaking about local events or breaking news, and their speed is just faster. Here, you're looking for main ideas and descriptive vocabulary about that event. So they'll either have like a breaking project or citizens' response to something. It is definitely formal. So in part 4, the vocabulary is starting to be more formal. It's not daily life conversation. It's very factual. We're listening for data, facts, numbers. Be sure to write down any numbers that you hear. And it sounds like the TV or the radio. So Keep in mind that this one's coming from a lot faster pace, so you need to be listening for all key details. Now in part number 5, a lot of CELPIP test takers are a little bit thrown off because part number 5 includes video. Now you might ask yourself, why is there a video? The questions kind of seem the same. Well, it's because these questions are also going to ask you about their emotions, or they'll direct you to people in the video. Instead of using the name, they might say, what did the girl with a red shirt have an opinion on about? Or what did the man with a hat decide to do? So as you are listening, you should be identifying characters and character traits. What do they look like? Man, woman, older, younger, for example. So pay close attention to those details. You have 9 minutes and 8 questions, a little bit more time, and you want to remember the facts, opinions, and their type of emotion. Here, it's mimicking real life. So if you see that the speaker has like an angry face, but their words are something positive, for example, they might say like, yeah, sure, we should go to the park. However, that type of emotion is something the questions will pick up on. So the examiners want you to be watching the video. As you've guessed, part number 6 is the most challenging. You're listening for viewpoints, and this is the one that closely resembles a university lecture because they are pre-prepared spoken scripts or lectures. For example, this one's on the modern educational system and ethical considerations. You're going to hear 2 speakers, or maybe 1 speaker, discuss the difference between their opinions and the facts. Now, what makes this really challenging is the vocabulary is very high level. Here, the examiner is looking for your ability to pay close attention to detail. As you are writing notes, I suggest that you write down key phrases that the speaker use. Don't try to write full sentences, and don't try to write entire ideas. Your memory is going to capture entire ideas, like the overall concept or the speaker's opinion. What the questions are going to ask is specific detail related to vocabulary. Now, if you get comfortable writing phrases, like 3 words or 4-word phrases, for example, environmental biodiversity and global engineering, these types of phrases are going to come up in the questions. So anytime you hear phrases, groups of words, high-level vocabulary, that is what you're writing down, not general concepts.
Lucas, I must say, the complexities of modern educational systems seem to intertwine with myriad ethical considerations, don't they?
Indeed, Ella.
So you can hear that their level of vocabulary is quite advanced, and you're listening for their speaker opinions and writing notes very efficiently. Let's take a look at the questions. This is the only area where you have drop-down questions. So you're going to be working off of your notes, and that's why I suggest that you take down phrases as you are writing. So you'll see here like inability to access intellectual capabilities comprehensively. So I might have written something like intellectual abilities, and that would get me close enough. Or perhaps this one has what solutions does Lucas suggest on maintaining human connections, technology integration? I didn't listen to the audio, so he might be talking about implementing purely digital learning strategies. In your notes, you're going to have one of these answers written down, one key phrase, and so that will help you to speed up. Now, keep in mind, you have 3 minutes to answer all of these questions on part 6, so you need to manage your time efficiently per question. If you don't know it immediately, and it's not directly in your notes, then you need to skip this and move on to the next one so that you can answer as many questions as you can. Then go back to the other questions, and you can't listen again, and you can't, guess from your notes. So what you're doing on this section, if you didn't write down the answer, is that now you're pulling from your short-term memory. You're trying to see, well, I don't have the answer written down, and none of my notes match any of these phrases. So now your last resort is simply to pull from your short-term memory and try to understand the larger concept. So for example, what did Lucas suggest maintaining human connection amid technology integration? I might remember that his opinion was either positive or negative. And I might recall that he had some type of suggestion about maintaining it through like modern educational reforms. And then I might go through here that says exclusively relying on traditional methods, probably not. Anytime you see a key vocabulary word that says like exclusively, that's an indication that it's probably not the correct answer. So exclusively might not work. Adopt a balanced method. Okay, balanced method, that seems very logical. Implementing purely, again, we have words purely digital strategies, so probably not that one as well. Let's get rid of this. Enhancing cognitive skill development through tech-based tools. So we have two good options. I didn't listen to the audio. All I'm doing is reading the question, and I can use my own thought process to understand what the question is. I'm down to a 50-50% on getting this question right. So if you didn't write it down, what you need to do is simply go through your own logic. Now, the most important thing we should know about part 6 is that you have more time per questions. So you have 8 minutes and only 6 questions. Because it is quite high level, they're using very specialized vocabulary, which is not common. It's unique to that topic. These days, the CELPIP exam has been dealing a lot with climate change topics, AI advancements, global politics, and global relations. So you should get familiarized with these types of topics. AI, climate change, geothermal, topics about new advancements. These topics you'll definitely see reoccurring often, and you need to be familiar with it. Now, it's important to note that the listening section is shorter among the other ones. Of course, speaking is the shortest, but this one you might be able to go through it in 47 minutes, up to 55. Try to use your time wisely. You can use the maximum amount of time. The last thing that I think is really important is that in the listening section, you are supposed to be able to understand intent and tone. This means in a natural daily conversation or in a lecture, you should be able to find the nuances in their voice. Listen for the tone or the emotion in their voice. And same with section 5, you're going to be looking for the emotion in their face. This will really help you to get a general feel for your questions. So the listening section is not the hardest, but if you know how to tackle it, then it can become easier. Finally, we come to the speaking part, which tends to give people a lot of nerves. They become nervous for this. However, there are a lot of ways that we can prepare in advance, and you can get a great score. Keep in mind that the speaking is subject to the examiner. So after you record, you're going to find that the more details that you provide and the more confident you sound, the higher your score. You can make some grammatical mistakes. There are room for pausing and mistakes as well. However, in general, we want to have strong ideas, good transitional words, and speaking confidence. Now you can see here it's about 20 minutes, about 15 to 20 minutes. There are some questions that you get more time to prepare and more time to speak. What does that tell you? Well, the more time to speak means that we want to hear a lot of your ideas. More time to prepare is that we want a logical, organized speech. So when you see 60 seconds for prep time, make sure that you are thinking logically. You have an opening, maybe a hook, you have a main idea, supporting examples, you have good vocabulary. 60 seconds is where you really want to have speech organization. 30 seconds, you just need to have like vocabulary and describe it and be using fluency if you only have 30 seconds. Now, actually, before you get to part number 1, there is an opening question, which is just going to be, tell me about your best friend. This question is just for a few things. Make sure that your microphone is working and to make sure that you have that speaking ability. This is not marked. Then you get to part 1, giving advice. Now, when you give advice, you'll read a question like this. Your friend is thinking about adopting a pet for the first time, but feels uncertain about all the responsibilities. Offer advice on how to select the right pet, prepare their living space, blah, 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 blah. This gives you lots of information. You don't need to think about the information. It's provided right here. You just need to show you can talk. Provide suggestions on how to determine if they are fully ready for commitment. So you'll basically be answering these questions. You only have 30 seconds to prepare. Tip number 1 is to act like you are speaking with someone. Don't imagine that you are like, hello, my name is Scott. Thank you. Hello, testing computer. No. Just speak with your friend. Speak with your friend. Hey, I understand that you want to adopt a new pet. Well, here are my thoughts. First, you should definitely make sure that you have the adequate living space for your pet. Secondly, buying a pet can be expensive, as well as maintaining pet expenses. So ensure that you have enough finance to cover all of the medical and additional supplies for your pet. So just first, second, third, use some transitional word, talk with your friend. All right, part number 2, we have a personal experience. This one is a little bit easier because it's about you. Now just get comfortable with the computer, speak about something. Describe a skill that you have learned that significantly impacted your life. Talk about why you chose this learning skill and the challenges you faced while becoming proficient in it. Now, before we look at this question, I want you to understand that the examiner and the recording doesn't care if you are telling the truth. Please do not waste time thinking about the best skill, something you're excited about. This is not an interview. This is you demonstrating your English fluency. You can make it up. You can add untruthful detail. So if you once learned how to ride a bicycle, use that. Don't worry if it's an amazing skill. Don't worry. Just please don't waste time. So I'm going to pick something, riding a bicycle. I once learned how to ride a bicycle when I was 3 years old. This significantly impacted my life because I became a world-class bicycle rider. But that's not true. But we want to show our vocabulary and confidence. So don't waste time. Part number 3 is when we have an image. 3 and 4 relate to the same image. It's going to say, describe what is happening in the picture below. Imagine the person cannot see the picture. You need to use descriptive vocabulary. You can begin to use vocabulary like, this picture is of. Good. General idea. That's your first sentence. Your second sentence is some more detail. So general idea, this picture is about a man and his family going shopping in the market. It looks like it might be in a crowded farmer's market. Picture 2, they are at the fruit stand because they are picking an apple. Now, once you get past that, start working with top right, top left, bottom right. So you can start to identify. In the bottom left corner, I can see a young boy. He is the only young child in the picture, and he is looking at the apples with hunger in his eyes. On the left side of the picture, I can see a woman holding the apple. So left side, right side, top right, top bottom. Part number 4 is when it's going to ask you to make a prediction. Now this, of course, you're going to be using your future tense. What will happen next in the picture? Future hypotheticals. So if you've learned conditional sentences like if then, for example, if the man purchases the apple, then he might go home to make apple pie. In this section, when you are predicting the future, thinking,
Start speaking now.
What will happen next in this picture, it is very important that you remain logical. Try not to say that they will get back on their rocket ship and fly. No, stay logical in the picture. What will happen next, and why do you think that? For example, I think they will go home and make an apple pie because they are around the apple section of the fruit stand looking very lovingly. Or I think they will go and have a great big Sunday feast because they are choosing lots of food at the market. So what will happen next and why? Why do you predict that? Now, part number 6 becomes more difficult, and I'll tell you why. Well, for example, you have to use your comparing and persuading vocabulary. So, tip number 1, you're going to quickly read this introduction. All right, you're enrolling between an online program, in-class, or institutional. Your friends suggest a third option, a hybrid. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I need to choose option A or option B. Don't waste time. We're choosing option A. Now it's going to appear on the next screen as well. So the option that you've chosen is still here and you still have time to read more about it. And the other option that your friend chose appears new. That's why we're not going to waste time reading both. In the beginning, choose one, go to the next screen. Now you can look at both options. For persuading, here you want to show your confidence when speaking. So you want to ensure that you can use high-level vocabulary, such as, I believe you should choose the online program. It is the best option because this is necessary. It will benefit because. Now there's one more tip here that I want you to remember. When we are describing one option, option A, we also need to tell the examiner that we can logically think about option B. What that might sound like is, hi friend, while I understand you like the hybrid option, I believe the online option is better. Or, while the hybrid option has a balanced blend of online and face-to-face formats, the online version has a more flexible schedule. Or, online program has more selection of courses. However, I understand that you want more flexibility with classmates. So you still want to talk about both options, but make it clear which one you prefer. So option A. The examiner shouldn't have to guess what option that you are speaking about. All right, on to number 6. Speaking task 6 also has only 30 seconds to prepare and 1 minute to speak. These are difficult situations because they are human problems that come up quite frequently. So, for example, you're a member of the community council. Quite challenging. You're asked to address a letter based on one of these topics. So either a community cleanup or implementing stricter regulations and fines. Now, here you're going to want to use the 30 seconds to really organize your opinion. Again, we want to have a claim and a reason why. Always justify your reasoning. For example, if you propose a community cleanup event, you want to explain why that's going to help your community more and why more people are likely to participate. Use transitional words here. First, additionally, furthermore, moreover. These transitional words are a quick and easy way to boost your mark. Now, part number 7 is when you must express your opinion, and I want to highlight here that you are supposed to speak for 1.5 minutes, so 90 seconds. Now think, if they want me to speak for 1.5 minutes, I need to prepare a strong structure. For example, your close friend is considering leaving a stable, well-paying job for a freelance opportunity in the film industry, which is unpredictable. Argue either for or against. All right, so you need to make this very clear for the examiner. Are you for or against this decision? Highlighting the benefits, the risks, and long-term implications, provide your best advice to your friend. What I would do if I was planning for this, I would first choose for or against, and then I would use these 3 benefits. So I would say, I'm for it because the benefits. You have more flexibility. Because there is a little bit of risk, however, you get more reward. And 3, the long-term implications. Use the structure in the question or in the prompt to guide your response. This will ensure that you answer all. Now, in between each part, I want you to be using transitional words. Like I said before, these transitional words will really help you to boost your mark. So you might say, hey friend, I strongly agree that you should blah, 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 blah. You should leave your stable job in order to have a freelancing position. Some of the benefits are, firstly, benefit 1, 2, etc. Next, in addition to this, I would like to outline the risks for you, blah, 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 blah. Furthermore, it's important that you understand the long-term implications, blah, 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 blah. If you follow this structure, you will get high marks and you have 90 seconds, so you want to use the information here. It will help you save time so you don't have to think. Always look in the question. Now on to describing an unusual situation. Yes, this is the last task for speaking section, and yes, it is the hardest because it is unusual. Students usually lose marks here because they are not using the full time to speak, and they are restarting their sentence often. For example, they are pausing by saying, in this picture, the woman, she looks like she might
Start
be...
speaking now.
And we don't want to have that type of hesitation. So no matter what you're looking at in the picture, it is unusual. We're using hypothetical situations, sentences in conditionals 2, first conditional, second conditional, third conditional. If the woman buys this fruit, she is likely to. Now, one more thing. Normally, this question says that you are talking to a friend. You call a friend and you describe the fruit and ask what they want, if they want to buy some. So remember, address your speaking to your friend. You are going to call them. Hey friend, I just arrived to the market and this woman at the street vendor is selling some very peculiar fruit. I've never seen it before. Would you like me to pick some up and bring you the fruit? Okay, so we're allowed to use some phrasal verbs. Now, the more emotion and real-life connection you put into it, this is going to get picked up by the audio, and the examiner will give you a better score because they can hear that natural speech. Try not to get stuck because you are speaking to a microphone. Treat it like it's the real world. You're reading this, you call a friend, hey friend, do you want me to buy this? It's natural.
Start speaking now.
That's a wrap up on the entire CELPIP exam from start to finish. Every part of the exam has particular tips and strategies to help you overcome your fear and to get top marks for your CLB, and so you can enter into Canadian immigration. Now, as a way for us to show some appreciation for you watching this video, we would like to give a giveaway at the end of this month. So simply by liking and commenting on the video, you will be enrolled to be participating in the giveaway. We are going to give you full access to the CELPIP training part and mock test. So you will get videos, comprehensive test, and test tips and strategies on how to get a high score on the CLB. So if you're looking for that resource, that study package, then just like and comment down below. Everyone who comments and likes will be entered into the draw and we'll announce the winners at the end of the month. It is a great pleasure for us to be working with hundreds of students around Canada that are getting their visa, getting their immigration status, and it's because of the CELPIP exam. So if you are taking the exam soon and you want some one-on-one help, send us a message. Contact is in the description down below. We would be more than happy to get in touch with you. I'm Scott from HZAD Education. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.